A very good afternoon to you all. You're watching Today with me, Aropiwa Madzena, and the big discussion this Sunday focuses on the emotional and the dramatic scenes played out in the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court this past week. After 4 months in custody, Magudumana finally applied for bail. Magudumana says a convicted rapist and murderer Thabo Bester forced her into leaving South Africa with him against her will. But the state is rubbishing this, insisting Magudumana willingly fled the country with her lover. To unpack what we saw in court and the latest developments, we're joined in studio today by a body and language expert, Tanya Steyn, a legal expert from the UJ Law Clinic, Alton Hart, and psychologist Professor Saths Cooper. And of course, she's been following the story throughout its very inception, senior reporter Silindelo Masikane. As always, thank you to all of you for joining us in studio. Slee, obviously we have to start with you. You were at those court proceedings last week and they were not without drama. We even saw tears coming from Magudumana. Give us a sense of what exactly happened in court last week.
So what we saw was Dr. Nandi Magudumana finally putting out her bid for bail. So she has been in custody for about 4 months now. Since she was brought back from Tanzania, she was deported after being found in the company of Thabo Bester. You'd remember there was a manhunt that was launched after it was confirmed by the Department of Correctional Services that Thabo Bester did not die in a fire in May of 2022. But rather escaped from the Mangaung Correctional Center. And the investigations that we've done ourselves, as well as the evidence that was brought forward by the state prosecutor, indicates that she's been in a relationship with Bester. We don't know for how long, but what we do know is that they did live together in Hyde Park in a mansion just down the road from our studios, where they were paying about 60,000 Rand a month. And of course, once ground up, then started publishing their own investigations around Bester and his alleged death at the Mangaung prison. That's when we heard from our sources that, of course, they fled that Hyde Park home and then left the country, in essence, to be brought back in April this year. Now, 9 of the 12 accused or implicated in this escape have been released on bail, 10,000 Rand bail. She is the only one, as well as the Zimbabwean national Zanda Moyo, who have not applied for bail. So it was a bit of a surprising move to see her finally applying for bail, because she's been approaching the higher courts to actually have her arrest and deportation set aside, as well as declared unlawful. But she also made a very surprising submission in her bail application, saying that Bester forced her to leave the country, that he forced her into a car, that she had no idea her passport was in the car, she had no idea she was in possession of other people's passports, and that Bester made her leave the country against her will. So in essence, he kidnapped her. And she says that she doesn't want to give any more information, but that's going to lay the basis of her defense come trial stage. So let's take a listen to her lawyer, as well as the state prosecutor, who then refuted these claims in opposition of bail by saying that she's, actually not being truthful with the court, and that she has been complicit in the illegal activities that Bester has been doing in as well as outside of prison, as well as, of course, being one of the masterminds of the escape. Let's take a listen.
Albeit I have decided to exercise and assert my right to remain silent, and not to disclose the basis of my defense until at the appropriate time and forum, I nevertheless wish to provide the following context to how I departed South Africa. 8.1. On or about the 17th of March 2023, I was in company of accused number 5. 8.2. I was instructed and commanded by accused number 5 to get into a vehicle and leave the premises to a destination unknown to me at the time. 8.3, I refused and wanted an explanation, but he forced me into a vehicle. 8.4, I succumbed to the pressure due to the threats he directed at me. 8.5, I was defenseless, helpless, and with no one to report to at that time. 8.6, I complied with his instructions and was taken out of the country against my will.
I categorically dispute this allegation. And this was the allegation that she was sort of kidnapped, put in a car, and she found herself in Tanzania. Through thorough investigation, I have established that the applicant was the one who drove from Johannesburg to fetch accused 5 from KwaZulu-Natal after his escape. As stated at paragraph 7.1e above, the applicant and accused 5 rented out a house together. They are both signatories to the lease agreement. My apology. The two, that being applicant and accused 5, were spotted shopping together by the media in March 2023. The applicant and accused 5 traveled together and stayed in Cape Town, where, amongst others, the applicant wrote out a prescription for accused 5 and visited a salon together.
Very interesting arguments that were put forward there. And Tanya Steyn, I want to bring you in at this stage because you were with us when we unpacked them getting together for the first time after being arrested, brought back from Tanzania, and they seemed quite cordial, if you will. What we saw this week was quite the opposite. In fact, her indicating that she's intimidated by this man that we've all dubbed her lover. What were some of the observations that you made there? Because interestingly, it seems as all the developments around this case were a shock to her, as with everyone else in the courtroom.
So, thank you for having me. There's definitely been, her body language is definitely saying she's in shock. She's never heard any of these stories. Yeah. And she portrays this surprise at some of the stuff the prosecutor's saying. So, it's all pretend. It's all for the camera. She knows the cameras are watching her. And she was saying no at stages where it didn't even make sense to say no. She was shaking her head. So it's incongruent, you know. So there's a lot going on there.
There is quite a bit, and I suppose one of the big things that was a surprise to all of us, Tanya, is the fact that she cried. We hadn't seen her shed tears before. What would you say this was an indication of, and was it a genuine show of, I don't know, remorse, feeling sorry about the situation, or perhaps even for herself?
So crying, when we cry, there's a physiological thing that happens to our body. Tears fall out of our eyes, our nose starts running. There's sadness. We normally call it a chin boss. The chin will start shaking, the eyebrows curl into each other. That's what you see on the face of a sad person or someone who's crying. I do think she's quite sad, but I feel like it's sad for herself. She's not showing remorse. She's sad for herself. Because when we do cry, as women we know, when we cry, you immediately wipe the tears away. She never wiped her tears. She only touched her nose. She wanted us to see she's crying. So that to me says it's fake. It's not real. She's crying to get sympathy. And she wants everyone to see, the judge included, that she's crying. But, you know, in human behavior, when we cry, we wipe it away immediately. She only really wiped it away after the judge asked her, is this your affidavit? And she said yes. And then someone gave her tissues. And she was wiping tears. I do think she might be going into a depression also now, but, you know, I don't think it's fun where she is, and she's really feeling sorry for herself. And I think she's starting to realize people don't believe her.
Yeah.
And she's in a catch-22. She needs to perform now.
Yeah. I mean, would the judge believe that, Alton, that performance that we saw at the Schedule 5 bail hearing that we witnessed during the week? Explain to us what exactly that entails and whether she did enough to potentially be released by the judge.
If one looks at it, Schedule 5 and Schedule 6, that's normally the two tough ones, and the onus is on the applicant to actually show either that's in the interest of justice that you be released on bail or exceptional circumstances. Now, for her, it's just required to show that's in the interest of justice. And that you find in Section 60, subsection 4A to E, where there's these 5 requirements that you have to meet in order for the judge to consider favorably in your on your side. So you need to tick all those boxes and show, okay, I won't interfere with witnesses, I will not commit another crime, I will not evade my trial. All those things you need to prove beyond, like sort of not beyond reasonable doubt, but on a balance of probabilities that it won't happen. So, and we should also not think of bail as a punitive measure. Bail is just to see, will you stand trial? Now, I can see the sentiment on social media as they want the judge to punish her already, but she's exercising her rights. And she only needs to show it's in the interest of justice that she be released on bail, and she can now advance things like her family life, her work, all those type of things that she's put in to say that I will lose all this if I'm incarcerated for a longer period of time. So, and then obviously the state needs to come to the contrary and say, but you did not consider all these things that you might lose when you were busy plotting and planning to commit these alleged offences, because we can't say she has committed them. It's alleged offences at this point in time until it's proven beyond reasonable doubt that she's committed them or she was involved in them. And that's how the court would look at these things, and weighing up all these things, then the court will decide, do you get bail or not? And obviously it won't stop there for her. If for some odd reason they deny her bail, she can now approach a higher court, which is a full bench. She can go to the High Court, she can then go to a full bench, and the SCA, like her other compatriots on the stand there, has done already. They've approached the High Court for bail. But that's more or less where exceptional circumstances would be what they call a Schedule 6 bail offence, and they're in the CPA. There's certain offences that's listed as Schedule 1s, Schedule 2, Schedule 3, 5, and 6. But in criminal law, 1 + 1 = 5. And I will explain later, 1 + 1 = 5.
Because of the difference you like to know. Prof, what do you make of someone in her condition? You'd think that being incarcerated for as long as she has, having the time to reflect on what it is she actually did with Thabo Bester, and the likelihood that she could spend quite some time in jail after everything has gone down. What would you say that does to the psyche of a person? And are we starting to see the beginnings, like Tanya has mentioned, depression or some form of breakdown with the realization?
No, I don't think she's going to have a breakdown, because this is a very contained person. She has sociopathic tendencies. I've said this before. She does not have the capacity to really care for others. She hasn't shown that for her children, her 2 very minor children. And she is clearly, from what one has read, she is heavily involved in masterminding what resulted in Thabo Bester's escape from prison. She did allegedly did some terrible things. So it's a little rich for her now to use the excuse that she was threatened by this fellow. She visited him in prison, from all the records that have been produced thus far. She did things where she tried to help him evade recapture. She helped him allegedly to escape, but did things to evade his rearrest. And she's now, it's a cry for me, Magudumania, because there is a Magudumania that is filling our country right now, and we wouldn't worry about her. I've said this before right here, and I'm repeating it. We wouldn't worry about her if she weren't a previous medical doctor, if she weren't attractive. We wouldn't worry about Thabo Bester if he was ugly, right? Those factors, and the fact that they've got money to do all these things, live the high life, it's almost a soap opera in reality happening before us. And then our hopeless prison system and our crime detection system, because they left the country, they went to the border of Tanzania with Kenya. So it tells us that we love to support somebody who gets away with it, right, in some ways. And this is that kind of story. Now we're bringing the love story into it, and we creating this nice romanticized notion. But he is a hardened criminal. He's a murderer, rapist. How on earth she got involved with him is for her to explain. I have my own views on, if you track her history, how she was involved with him before, she went back and visited him, and so on. So here was somebody who probably ended up choosing somebody else as a husband and then was all too ready to ditch her kids. Now, no woman out there can feel sympathy for such a person, and no man out there should feel sympathy for such a person. I am totally in favor of innocent until proven guilty, but what we've heard and what we've seen is a self-pitying more than anything else. She's hard as nails. When she needs to, she will be coquettish. She will do whatever it is to pass muster, to charm, to enthrall, to do whatever it is to make men. I've heard hardened lawyers say, well, I don't know whether I wouldn't believe her. So if I've heard that from hardened lawyers, how will ordinary guys feel? How would women who feel sympathy feel? Here's somebody attractive. She had a medical career. She was struck off the road, self-inflicted, by the way, and part of her sociopathy in that, because she doesn't care for the rules. But she'll use the title when she's not entitled to. So there's a whole string of things there where it shows a predisposition to behaving in a reckless way. And then when your risky behavior catches up with you, you blame everybody else but not yourself. Yeah. So she needs to accept certain responsibilities, and she'll have her day in court. You can bet your bottom dollar, unless some silly presiding officer decides to let her go, because she's a massive flight risk. She has the ability to evade law, detection and get out of the country without people finding her. So I think that unless some silly presiding officer, I'm repeating myself, lets her out on bail, she's going to have her day in court, and if proven, she'll be found guilty and she'll have to spend time in prison. This is the hard reality when you traipse with criminality, when you do things thinking about yourself, your own needs, and that of your lover, and then try to, it's natural that she's going to blame him, because he's going to go nowhere. He's serving a couple of life sentences, I think. So she's doing everything to pull the sympathy button. I think she's failing. I think South Africa is seeing through her, and bully for the rest of us who are growing up very mature to recognize con artists when we see them.
Yeah, very interesting. We continue with the Magudumana discussion when we return. Do stay with us.